We were all like, oh, I'm in love with that ghost.
And I was in love with the girl. What was her name? I forget her name.
Christina Ricci.
That was Christina Ricci?
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Bearded Blevins.
I am Katie Ruvalcaba.
And just a friendly reminder to our audience.
This podcast is not to tell you how to raise your kids. It's just our opinions.
Yeah, we're going to help you because we wish that we had people in the last few years helping us. And so we thought, why not us?
Yeah, just to navigate the digital space, to be able to find media that's appropriate for your kids and kind of get a couple of viewpoints on it.
Yeah, and laugh hysterically at who we are as human beings, because sometimes we can be funny. Sometimes.
I like to tell my kids looks isn't everything.
But in your case, they're nothing. No, that's what my daddy used to say to me. I was just kidding. Just kidding.
You know, I've heard feedback that we're too mean to each other.
Valid feedback, but it's because we're like brother and sister.
That's right. He's my tiny infant brother.
We've known each other for years.
Yeah.
And yeah, sarcasm can be a love language if used appropriately, or it can be really dangerous. But we don't use it dangerously.
Yeah.
How are things, Mrs. Ruby?
Things are fantastic. My kids are back in school. They started back in. All that stuff has happened.
We're homeschooling, so we can wait till whenever we want. We're starting in November.
Well, that's great because you didn't have to buy like the specific yellow folder that every other mom in the entire world is looking for. And we're fighting each other in a Staples.
Seriously, that's a thing?
Yeah. They, for whatever reason, they like need a specific color of folder. And you're like, what if it's like orange? Would orange work? And they're like, no.
What about, when I was a kid, I got like Detroit Lions.
No, you can't have that.
Folders.
No.
Why?
It's not because.
What about expressing your individuality?
No, Brave New World.
Speaking of expressing your individuality, I have a question for you. Today, we're talking about, I'm really excited to hear your answer. We're talking about Haunted Mansion and Coraline.
Yes, we're getting into spooky season. Not quite, but we're getting there.
I know, we're close. And I thought to myself, how dumb are we for not just releasing this in October?
No, but you want to know in advance.
Stuff.
Like you want to have plans.
Yeah, and Haunted Mansion's in theaters. And it's going to be in theaters for another like 3 weeks. And when this episode is released, it will probably still be in theaters for another couple of days at least. So we're talking about it today. But before we get into the new Haunted Mansion, which is based off a roller coaster or a ride or something, we'll get there. And Coraline, which is horrifying. I want to ask you what was your first ever scary movie?
The first scary movie that I ever saw in theaters was 1988's Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
What? I was 1 year old.
Uh-huh.
How old were you?
In 1988, I was 3.
You saw it when it came out?
Yeah, in the theater.
This is your dad?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So are you horrified still of Freddy Krueger? And that's Freddy Krueger, right?
Yeah. There were years where like survivors of burn situations where I just had a lot of scaries there, and it took me years to get over that. I don't recommend those kinds of things because it can create some really uncomfortable, prejudices in children that's not great. And but there's one scene in particular in which Freddy is in this girl's dream, because that's the premise, is that he gets you in your dreams, and she's eating pizza and her friends are all the pepperonis, and he stabs one with his creepy little finger. And I couldn't eat pepperoni pizza for quite a while after that.
That's messed up.
Yeah, I was only 3, so like I think my dad thought, you're not going to know what's going on. You're only 3. I want to go to this movie, so you have to go with me. Sorry, I just hit my mic. I want to go to this movie, so you have to go with me.
Yeah.
And really the main takeaway that I had as a kid was scary face guy is scary and pepperoni pizza could be my friends.
Yikes. We're going to get into pepperoni pizza later.
Oh, dear.
Fun fact. At another episode.
Another episode.
However, hold on. So you were 3. Mm-hmm. The first scary movie that I saw, you're going to laugh. It was Casper the Friendly Ghost. Why are you laughing? It's not fun. It was scary.
Wait, how old were you when you said, was it in 8th grade?
I was 8 years old.
Oh.
I was not in 8th grade. I was 8 years old, which actually shocks me. It's the first movie that my mom.
Wait, that's not a scary movie.
Yes, it is. It's a horrifying movie when you're 8. This is where I'm coming from in this podcast, okay? This is why later I'm going to say wildly different things than you about what age we can watch these scary movies, I think.
Okay.
But it was the first movie my mom took my brothers and I to, where we got to sit, and I think I went with some friends, where we got to sit like in the front row without my mom. Like she sat in the back and we sat in the front. It was horrifying. And I was 8. I'm surprised that my mom let me see that in theaters.
Which part was horrifying?
All of it. There were ghosts.
They were cartoon ghosts.
I understand, but they're scary to an 8-year-old. I was horrified. From that moment on, I did not go downstairs in the basement by myself until I was 25.
Do you know what what?
Okay, 18.
You know what I took away from Casper the Friendly Ghost? Devon Sawa Handsome. That was it.
I don't even know who that is.
It's the real life Casper. Every girl watching this podcast, or woman now, knows at the end when he comes down the stairs and he's not a ghost anymore and he's Devon Sawa, and we were all like, oh, I'm in love with that ghost.
And I was in love with the girl. What was her name? I forget her name.
Christina Ricci.
That was Christina Ricci?
Yes.
Wasn't she? Wait, what else was she in?
Lots of things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Interesting.
You can't just jump at me with that.
But she's different than Katie Holmes.
Yes.
But they look kind of alike.
No, not all brown-haired women are the same.
No. Okay. Well, so I was not ready to see Casper, though.
There's literally nothing scary in that.
They turn green. The other brothers are really mean to him.
But they eat
try
food
to
and it
scare
falls
people.
directly out of them as poop.
That was funny.
Well, not really poop.
That part was funny.
Yeah.
But we're not doing Casper. Maybe we'll do Casper. And what's that amazing scary show on Disney? The Disney Channel.
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Nope. The movie. Not Halloween Town. The one with the witches.
Oh, Hocus Pocus.
Yes, we should do
not
Hocus Pocus.
That was a movie, not
we should do
Disney
Casper and Hocus Pocus for our spooky season 1.
Okay.
Thoughts?
I mean, Casper's not a scary movie, but we'll work it out.
Okay. Well, that's great. This week's episode, we are going to talk about, speaking of Casper haunting my sleep.
Oh my God.
We're going to talk about the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
And Coraline.
Coraline.
But I want to start with Coraline, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we like to do one new, one old, so that you can kind of get a...
Yeah. Well, and for some reason, I've never seen Coraline until we were going to record this. And for some reason, over the last 5 or so years, it pops up all over the place.
Yeah.
I see it on Twitter still. I see pictures of it when I'm scrolling through whatever app is I'm scrolling through. If I'm looking at movies for kids, it pops up. And I thought it was a cute little like doll movie.
It is rated PG, and it was definitely billed as a kid's movie. Definitely.
Yeah. I thought it was wildly messed up. I watched it the other day with my wife. She's no longer going to be watching movies with me for this podcast. She was like, this is not fun. We should be watching we're watching Jack Ryan right now.
Yes.
And she is we don't get to hang out that often. Yeah. Life's crazy right now. And so when we do, she's like, why are we watching Coraline when we can watch Jack Ryan? But here we are. Here's the thing. The movie's messed up. And I was horrified the entire time. What are your thoughts?
I think Coraline is a cautionary tale about why you should always have more than one kid. But it's for adults in that sense. Coraline, if you've never seen it, Coraline is a movie about a only child, and her parents are too busy for her, and she gets kind of drawn into this alternative universe where everything is about her. The parents are practically obsessed with her, but they have buttons for eyes. Everyone does. And what did you find in it that
And what?
I can't even ask this question straight because I've seen this movie so many times that
You've seen this movie more than once?
So my oldest daughter was mildly obsessed with this movie for a little while. She thought it was great and tried to show it to all of her little friends, and they were all terrified.
Yeah.
Like, kids were not allowed to spend the night at my house anymore because of Coraline, and I hadn't watched it all the way through, but I knew it was rated PG, and Maggie thought it was okay, so I was like, it's fine. But then I sat down and watched it after I found out that the neighbor girls were really upset, and
yeah.
But so I'm trying to ask you, like, what did you find disturbing while in my head picturing the woman on the trapeze? Go ahead. What did you find
that is
disturbing?
This movie is the kind of movie that would make my mom call my friend's mom if I watched it at their house at a sleepover and be like, why did you show this to my kid? That's how I hope you didn't get those phone calls. But well, first of all, it had a killer cast. I thought that the voice, so I was excited going into it because of all the famous people that were doing the voice acting. I was like, oh, this is going to be really good. And then it was made with stop motion, which I'm not wildly familiar with. I know Nightmare Before Christmas was. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
Those are the big ones.
But so I acknowledge that is very cool and that takes, I'm sure, ridiculous amounts of time. And I was trying to actually watch in the beginning to see every single scene is drawn out. It's crazy cool. So that was kind of cool. But it was super scary from the beginning. Like that little kid on the bike just riding around with that mask on, that futuristic. It's kind of has this future feel to it, but also it feels like it's a long time ago. Yeah. But that kid has he has multiple masks that he wears throughout the entire thing. But it was just super dark. But also even her parents didn't make sense to me. Her parents are they're garden writers.
Yeah,
they're for a magazine, but they don't garden. And as far as we can tell, they haven't gardened for years.
They won't let her garden either at the beginning of the movie.
And they're afraid of dirt.
Yeah.
And they're just mean. I know that there are overworked parents out there who still love their kids and are not like that.
Yeah.
I know that there are also overworked parents who are probably not wanting to hang out with their kids.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even get on board with the premise. There's two parents that don't even like their daughter. And yet they're better than the crazy psycho mom and dad.
The dad is scary to me, just in appearance. And I'm one of those people who's more afraid of like the look of something than the building terror of something. I'm a visual scary person. I'm afraid of things visually, right? So the dad looks like, have you ever seen those things where they say what gamers are going to look like in 20 years?
Yes.
Like the dent in the head and the forehead and the thing.
Yeah.
He looks like that.
Yeah.
And he's very scary looking, and he's not even the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like we haven't even got to the scary part yet, and I'm afraid of her dad.
For sure.
Yeah.
There are things in the movie I don't get. Like she goes to the Badland. So spoiler alert, sometimes when we talk movies, you're going to learn some things about the movie, but that's fine.
Yeah.
What parent goes into a PG movie from 2009 excited to watch it?
Yeah.
So like she goes into this other world and it's normally blocked off, but she's able to go through at night. And then she goes to sleep and she wakes up in her normal house.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day she goes to sleep there and she doesn't wake up in her normal house.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense to me. They didn't ever talk about
I don't
that.
think they ever explained that, no. And the difficulty she had getting home at the end made it kind of confusing. But the premise of like, I mean, if we're being honest, this is like a French existentialist acid trip for children is basically what they've created with this. Is that wrong?
No.
No, it's totally that. But for me, like the scary visuals of it were so much worse than the weird nonsense that didn't make sense. Like kids are into weird nonsense that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But the way that the mom's face at the end like melts off into horror and just it's too much.
Yeah, it was super weird. Like the even just the idea of like sewing her friend's mouth shut because she's annoyed, like that was creepy.
Yeah.
That's like torture type of stuff in a PG movie, which is weird. And then the trapeze scene that you brought up, where these two massive ladies, right, are doing trapeze. And the first one, like the first one, I was looking at my wife, I was like, "What is this? What is she doing?" And then the second lady comes out, she's naked.
Completely. She's got some strategically placed pasties.
What's a pasty?
Don't worry about it. You don't need to know.
I thought that was like a pastry.
No, it's not.
Pasties.
It's a thing that covers up your.
Like they were like little starfish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I look at my wife and I was like, there's no shot that lady's naked. And then she was like, Coraline just said they were naked. Even Coraline comments and says like, hey, why is she naked? So that was weird in a PG movie.
It was very odd. I'm not sure how they got away with a PG rating on that one at all. So my oldest daughter was really into that movie. She thought it was cool. I think it's because she was a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, and this feels like the next. It feels like it's not a sequel, but if you liked Nightmare Before Christmas, it feels like you should like Coraline.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where she got into it. But once her friends were terrified of it, she stopped watching it. So
okay. I want you to like talk to her about it now and then put it on our Instagram story.
Look at her notes from when we were in the movie theater.
Oh, from Haunted Mansion.
Yes. She's like,
that's incredible.
She said maybe like Coraline, a little scary.
Yeah, okay. I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah.
So my question then for you, is this for kids? Is Coraline for kids?
I would say that Coraline is not appropriate for children under the age of 13.
We are going to agree for maybe the first time.
Yeah.
I said 13 years old.
Really? Exactly?
I did. Yeah. I say 13 and up because it was scary. Like here's my thing so far, and maybe this will be a theme throughout. I was scared to go in the basement when I was a kid, and it wasn't finished at the time. I wasn't scared once it was finished, and I forget why. But like anytime I thought of any scary movie, and then I went in the basement, I was scared to go in the basement, including Casper. Including Pet Sematary, which was probably the first actual horror movie I saw, which I left my friend's house because I'm such a wuss and went home and cried and told my mom they're watching a horror movie and ratted out all my friends. I know. Their parents knew, so no one got in trouble. But my kids right now are not scared of anything. Like they're scared of acid rain. That is what my son, that is what my oldest son.
Isn't that worrisome though? Like they're going to get into something if they're not afraid of anything.
No, it's cool. I mean, I think they have healthy fears of like knives and stuff like that. But I mean, like they don't have, there's nothing, monsters, ghosts, those things like just aren't in their heads yet because they don't watch shows like that or movies like that right now. So they go to the basement with the lights off all the time. I never would have done that at 8 years old. So that's why I'm giving Coraline 13 and up. And if you're into weird kind of stuff like that, maybe you'll like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're raising baby Helena Bonham Carter, you might be okay. But my bedroom was in the basement as a kid, an unfinished basement, and we also had a heater that whenever it kicked on, it shot flames. So just our childhoods were a little different.
Our childhoods were different. So I had the opportunity every year of my life from the time I think I was, I don't want to get this wrong, 12, let's call it 12 years old until I was like 18. Every single year I had the choice to go to Disney World or to go to Hilton Head Island. And my parents weren't like super loaded. That was like what we did once a year. What? You go to Disney World every year?
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
We lived a different life. That's what you're saying?
A very different
That's fine.
life.
That's fine. So, so I've never been. We chose Hilton Head because our friends would go.
Yeah.
So we never went to Disney World, even though I'm a massive Disney fan and like love Disney movies. Not so much anymore, Disney fan, but love a lot of Disney movies. Grew up on them. Was kind of raised with them. I never went to Disney World, so I've never been to Haunted Mansion, which apparently is a ride somewhere in Disney.
Yes,
right?
It is.
Have you been?
So the ride?
To the ride.
Yeah. I won't need to clarify. I've been to Disney World twice.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
So you're for sure probably going next year.
The first one was a little bit scary. The whole backstory. Had a whole podcast about it. I know you didn't listen, but that's fine.
I did listen.
That's how I got to Disney World.
Oh, I didn't know that. That wasn't mentioned in the podcast.
It was mentioned in the podcast.
I missed that episode.
Personally.
Don't miss an episode of Is This for Kids?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it there. And we used to live in Arizona, so we went to Disneyland before. So I've been to Disneyland twice. I've been to Disney World twice. Been to Haunted Mansion in both places.
Oh, there's one in each one.
Yeah. So in Disneyland, it's in New Orleans Square, which is more in line with the movie. Whereas in Disney World, I'm not even sure what the name of it. I think it's maybe in Frontierland, like at the back.
Okay.
I don't know.
And is it a ride? What is it?
Yeah, it's a story rider. It's a slow moving ride. So you get on this little thing, you're in your doom buggy, and you go through and you see just like different parts of the mansion that are visible in the movie. So like the candlestick floating down the hall is one of the first things that you see in the ride. And the dining room full of ghosts dancing and that graveyard outside. Those are all things that you see in the movie. The hitchhiking ghosts is how you leave the ride. They're like, beware of hitchhiking ghosts. And you go by a mirror and there's a ghost in the car with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of lame.
It's not it's not intense as rides go.
So how does a ride like that get 2 movies based off of it?
So the first movie with Eddie Murphy from, I don't even know what year.
I never saw it.
I saw it in the background while I was cooking dinner a couple times. It has almost nothing to do with the ride at all,
Okay.
with the exception of like the lady's head in the jar. That's a big part of the ride. But this new movie very much calls back to the movie or to the ride.
Okay. And what did you think about the movie? I saw it. No, I'll let you go first. I want to know what you thought of Haunted Mansion. It just came out. It's got a crazy cool cast.
Yeah.
Which is probably why it's so disappointing because the cast is great. But what did you think about it?
So I thought that it was a lot of fun. I went with most of my older kids. I took my 15-year-old, my 10-year-old, and my 9-year-old. We all went to the movies and saw it together. Nobody was afraid of it when we left. I think it did a really good job of being scary and having those like kind of spooky moments. But by the end, there's a redemption arc. There's the one bad guy. He's gone. He's defeated. And all the other ghosties are buddies. And so it did a really good job of wrapping it up so that when you leave, your kid's not going to be scared for the whole night.
I certainly wasn't scared for the whole night.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Jody never texted me and said that we needed to get you a Valium.
Did she say that?
No, she would never say that.
I texted her. So I go to the movie. I do a Twitch stream often, and I had a 14-hour Twitch stream from 6 a.m. until like 7 or 8 p.m. And then I went to go see this movie last night.
Yeah.
I was the only one in the theater, which is wildly embarrassing in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to go home. I'm that guy. I think they have to stay open anyway. I think that's a rule.
Well, unless it's a theater that only has one theater in it, there's other movies going on.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, I'm the only one here. And with my popcorn, and I'm sitting towards the front because I thought it was a bigger theater when I picked my seat, and it wasn't. So I'm like really close to the front. Casper memories.
Oh my gosh!
And
this was just flashbacks.
It was scary. I think Haunted Mansion was a little scary.
It had some scary parts,
but it wasn't that good either.
Oh, I thought it was good.
See, I thought it was creepier than I realized. So like I would say a quarter of the way through, I was like, there's no way this is PG. Like it should not be PG. And I Google it and it's PG-13 and I had no idea. So I was like, okay, that at least makes more sense to me. So now I'm what?
What parts did you feel like pushed it over the edge from PG?
The scary elements, right?
There was no swearing, no sex.
Right. No, I thought, and there was
mild drinking at the beginning.
Yeah, which wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Like I thought overall, like the scary parts, which when I looked up the rating, it's because of the scary moments that it's PG-13.
That is so silly to me. Like the scariest bit was probably, in my opinion, the bride, because I'm a visually scary person and she had a mild decomposition situation going on, but it wasn't like graphic and terrible. And at the same time that you're seeing her close up, you've got Owen Wilson being like, "You're terrifying, turn around." And so
he was funny.
There's a comic element in every scary part that really diffuses that for me.
Yeah. He was funny. And I do think that some of the characters were good. And like, I thought the movie was okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was great. I was kind of entertained. I thought it was okay. It was a little scary. I do think that they handled grief like really well. There's like 4 or 5 or 6 even, if you could probably argue, if you talk about some of the ghosts, that there's a bunch of characters struggling with grief. Mm-hmm. And each one of them kind of deals with it in a different way. And they help each other overcome it. And that was really cool. Mm-hmm. That part I liked about the movie. But it should absolutely be rated PG-13. If a 10-year-old goes into that movie and has never seen a scary movie, they're not going in the basement.
I am perfectly fine with the rating being PG-13 because that's for parental guidance for anyone under the age of 13, and I think that that's perfectly reasonable. I felt like they did a really good job of closing it out in a way that's not scary. I think the things that scare kids long term is when there's no resolution to what's the monster in the basement or how are they going to keep it from coming back or all of those things.
Sure.
And they did a great job tying all that up. I thought it was fun too. And I don't usually like kids movies very much. But for me, I would recommend this movie to, if you want to go watch a scary movie with your kids this season, this is the one I would recommend.
I have a hot take about this movie.
Oh, let's go.
I think that this movie would be better if it was rated R. And if it was wildly scary. Yeah. Like, I think that they should go all in. It should be way scarier. They should use more language, and it should be rated R. Because I love the premise is really fun. Like, I think you can do it without the gore, and it wouldn't be for kids.
There was no gore.
No, I know. Yeah. I'm saying to make it R.
Oh,
but do that without the gore, without any of like the sex stuff, and just make it super, super creepy, but still address the grief stuff.
Yeah.
And then just have it be like this really cool scary movie. And I am not a scary movie fan. I do not watch scary movies. But I walked away from the movie being like, man, that would have been better if it was rated R.
Oh my goodness.
Is that weird?
That is weird.
I don't know if I've ever thought that about any movie other than the Paw Patrol movie. I'm kidding. Obviously.
I don't know what he wants to do to Chase, but I want out of this podcast.
I'm kidding. It just makes no sense that this kid can just live. Okay.
Right.
So all of that said, before I ask you what your rating is for kids,
yeah.
You kind of said, but that's okay. What was with all the weird advertising? Did you
that
notice
was
that?
Odd. Yeah.
They brought up like Office Max and Burger King.
Yes.
Specifically.
And he's got the.
Do they have stock in Disney or something? Like I don't get it.
I don't think so, because aren't there McDonald's inside Disney World?
It was very clear that there was 10 product placements that were weird.
Yeah. Very strange, weird product placement. And I don't love that in a movie, but
I know Burger King is spending millions of dollars right now trying to hundreds of millions to get the Whopper like back to number 1, as they should.
Well, by putting
it's delicious.
75 pounds of red dye number 40 in it.
What?
Have you seen that? Like what was it? The Spider-Man Whopper? Like the whole bun is red.
Oh,
you will
that's
literally
gross.
Poop red.
Okay, that's disgusting. No,
I did not see that. Movie scenario.
I did not see that. That is disgusting. But the Whopper is a top 3 popular burger, popular in a fast food place. It's not In-N-Out. It's none of that stuff. But it absolutely deserves to be eaten more.
I'm a big fan of the Burger King double cheeseburger. That's my favorite. Anybody at Burger King wants to hit me up with a Burger King double cheeseburger hookup, I am right here. I am your girl. It's macro balanced and delicious.
This episode is not brought to you by Burger King.
It's not yet.
So you liked it. I thought it was okay. You didn't think it was scary. I thought went upstairs to sleep in my room with Jody instead of sleeping in the basement, even though I had to wake her up.
It was scary, appropriately so, and resolved well so that you didn't have lingering scaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what age are you letting someone watch The Haunted Mansion?
I would say whatever age your kid is able to handle Halloween-y, scary type things. So if your kid is a scary movie type of kid, I would say 7 and up is good as long as you're there with them. I wouldn't send a 5-year-old. I wouldn't send a kid by themselves, but if you're with them, I would say 7 and up, you're good to go.
I would say, I'm right there with you, by the way. I'm right there with you.
He's about to say 14.
If your kids are used to scary stuff and have seen that, and you're with them, 12 and 13. if not, probably 14 or 15 years old. Because I was sheltered. That movie would have messed me up as a kid.
There's no blood, no sex, no one gets shot, no one gets stabbed.
Yeah, but I don't think about ghosts, and then I see this movie, and now I'm thinking about ghosts. It's just like how it goes. So if I'm a 12, that's what I'm saying. If I was a 10-year-old who had not ever watched the thing about ghosts, and I saw this movie, I'd think about it every night for at least a year.
I think the main lingering scary that I have from this movie is whether or not it's possible the priest that married me was faking the whole time.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole other thing.
And then he gets ordained at the end, but not a priest.
No, that's not how that works.
Yeah. But there was real quick, for our Catholic listeners out there.
Yeah.
There was a great line where Owen Wilson's character, he plays a priest who's not a real one, spoiler, and he said,
should be pretty obvious right out the gate.
Right. And he's super nervous and scared. And so he's like, I'm going to go pray morning prayer. And then they're like, isn't it nighttime? And he's like, not in Rome. That was and that's true. Like priests can pray morning prayer anytime throughout the day. Sometimes they're supposed to pray it in the morning. But I thought that was like, it's cool when movies get Catholic stuff right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. He made a fun joke that actually made sense.
He did. That worked out well. Good job. Good job, Owen Wilson.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited to do our next spooky one in October.
We're about to move into spooky season. You want to make sure you get all of these great podcast episodes. So make sure that they're following us on Instagram, right? We're definitely there.
Yes. ITFK podcast.
It's also over on YouTube.
I'm super excited. We've gotten some feedback already from the first few episodes of shows or movies or video games that people want us to review.
Yes.
So make sure you check out our Instagram and leave a comment on anything you'd like to see us do over the next few months. We'd love to hear back from you.
And if you think John is ridiculously sheltered, please leave us those comments.
Yes. You can actually rate the podcast 5 stars.
Yes. If it's not going to be 5 stars, let me just text me. I'll get you John's phone number and we'll do better next time.
Yes. That's how you're going to do it. Until next time.
Yeah. Is this podcast for kids?
This podcast is not for kids. It's for parents.
This is for parents. It's not for kids. Bye.